This LSU defense was 108th in the country last year in total defense. Because they're 52nd this year. And I don't think that you're going to have some of the guy. Clearly, you're not going to have the same safeties that you had this year. I don't think that you have the same corners. I don't think that you have. I do think that you're going to look for a linebacker or progress from within. Guys, you jumped up from the hundreds to the 50s. And I asked all of you in the beginning of the season what would you allow? Now, my take in the beginning of the season was that LSU would finish in the mid-50s in total defense in the regular season. Me and Carter had a long segment about it. You can go on a YouTube channel and check it out. It's in the beginning of the season. We talked about this a lot. Guys, mid-50s is where they're at. So where I thought that they were is pretty much where they finished. Now, I didn't expect for there to be situations where you're still allowing teams to run the ball on you the way that they did. Maybe I should have, because we talked about this defensive line all offseason. And when the depth started waning and you had guys banged up, well, that's where the D-line and linebackers, it started to become a problem. Because they finished about where I was at, or where I thought that they would be. 52nd in total defense, 46th in passing yards allowed. Now, that number is really skewed because there were games like South Carolina, there were games like Alabama and Texas A&M where teams just didn't throw the ball on you for an entire half. I mean, like, Bama did not really throw the ball on you. You gave up 313 rushing yards. So it's a little bit skewed. But you know what? Even if they finish in the mid-50s and both of those teams get 150 yards more apiece and even a couple of more touchdowns, it's still better than where you were a year ago. You were 111th in the country in passing yards allowed last year. This year, you're 46th. There is a lot of context that goes into that. In that context, you got better based off of Blake Baker and what he's done. Interesting. Guys, you were 24th in the country in sacks. And there's not a bigger area that LSU progressed in total number than havoc rate and getting to the quarterback. Now, last year, ironically, you were in the 40s. But if you remember, LSU had a big bowl game and got sacks against Wisconsin. So they jumped up like 30 spots because they had like 5 sacks or whatever it was. And you look at LSU now, guys, they have not been this productive getting after a quarterback in a while. They just haven't been. And Blake wants to send heat. He wants to play man coverage. Good on him. Glad that he does. Don't be passive. Never be passive. But it's the biggest area that they grew. But one thing did remain the same. And one thing didn't change. And that is, on third down, you could not get off the football field. You couldn't. You were in the hundreds last year on third down defense. You're 87th in the country this year. 87th. You're not going to win football games if you can't get off the field. And this has been a problem for Brian Kelly every single year. at LSU. Your defense does not have the ability when they need to get stops. When they have to have stops, they cannot do it. What do we attribute that to? Play calling. We attribute that to guys not being smart and having situational awareness. Gotta be. We chalk it up to that you're just getting flat out coached. That's all that what happens on third down. Because, guys, the truth is, and we're going to talk about this with Joe Sloan, so remember this point in just a moment. But the reason that you spend big money on coordinators is because majority of those guys are smarter on what they need to do on getting off or staying on the field on third down and the things and the plays that they call in the red zone. Now, I know that I have that with Blake Baker. Guys, you were 37th defensively in the red zone. You, the 37th best team in the country, which isn't great. It's not fantastic. Better than what you were last year when you were in the hundreds. You gave up a lot of yards, but, man, there were a lot of times you held teams to field goals inside the red zone. I think about Bama. Think about A&M. And then there was times where you got in the red zone, you just got your ass whooped. But more times than not, you're going to make a really good stand in the red zone. I know that I have a good play caller in Blake Baker. Guys, I think you need talent. And it's kind of wild to think, in a way, that I don't think that you had good safety play. I don't really think that you had great interior defensive line play. And I think you had average D-line play this year. I don't even think you got good D-line play this year. Now, the edge was a completely different situation. You got really good production from that. Braden Swinson, great. Savion Jones gave you a lot of effort. Fantastic. Man, you're the 52nd ranked defense in the country. And I really don't know what else you can ask from Blake. Like, I really, really don't. The issue that I have with them defensively right now is that you got to replace 8 seniors. And, guys, you got to go get dudes. So the defense was bad. I'm with you. They were bad. 8 of them are leaving. You were 52nd in the country. And you don't really completely know where you're going to get all your guys coming back from. Is Devon Keys ready to be a full-time starter? Is he ready for that? Are you sure about that? What do you do at safety? Because I'm here to tell you, your room is not ready. That room is not ready. They got to go get safeties, and they got to go get them now. Got to get them now. Your safeties are supposed to be there that when everything else breaks down, that they make a tackle and these long, massive runs don't keep happening. Jay Ward is who you need. You need Jay Ward. You need a Greg Brooks. I don't need elite. I need somebody who can just make me some plays. You're not getting that. So there's no bigger area of concern for me than this defense, ironically. It's just not. But, man, you got to get off the field on third down. That's one trend you got to break. If you want to be a top 25 defense, guys, here's something that's simple. When teams are lining up for you on third down, you got to stop them. Hold on. So LSU was on third down defensively against Bama. They were 10 of 13. Was Bama against you. So Alabama converted 10 times out of 13 times on third down. That's why they beat you 42-13. Because if that gets cut in half, guys, they're not scoring 42 points. They're probably around 28 to 21 or 28 to 31. You're not stopping teams on third down. That has been the number one thing that Brian Kelly has had the massive issue with in his tenure. You can't get off the field on third down defensively. All right. Offensively, guys, here's just the God's honest truth. You can't keep having turnovers. Now, Nuss has been a lot better the last 2 weeks against Vandy, against Oklahoma, even though he had the critical fumble. He's been better in the turnover department. The interesting part about this offense, you're 31st in the country in total offense. You were 8th in passing. Well, you better be 8th in passing. You're at 315 yards a game. Guys, we threw the ball 500 times in the regular season. 500. There's actually 499 to be technical, but 500 times you threw the football. That's too much. It's too much. Scoring offense, you were 56. Turnovers, you were tied for 43rd. Red zone, you were 99th. Third down offense, you were 10th. Sounds like a young offense. Sporadic and really good in one areas, really shitty in others. The things that you struggle with are what win teams national championships, right? So the things that LSU offensively cannot win in, third down consistently in the running game. They couldn't convert in the red zone. They're tied for 99th. Running the football, they're 108th. So the things that LSU missed offensively all year are why the teams that are in the playoff are in the playoff. All of those teams can convert in the red zone. They got a really good scoring offense because they are converting in the red zone. They're able to extend drives when they're not just in the 20s. They're able to on third down, and they need 3 yards to line up and run the ball. Ask Texas, Alabama, South Carolina how they've gotten to 9 wins. And there's going to be parts of the season where we'll be like, yeah, man, I mean, shit. I mean, some of it against y'all, we lined up and ran the football. So good in so many areas. So bad in so many others. No teams in the SEC scored more points off of your turnovers. Like you're number one. Points scored off of turnovers. LSU is the best team to do that against. They were 16th in the SEC. They're 130th in the nation that when you had a turnover, team scored on you. Mainly because a lot of them were very critical and in the red zone or for the other team's red zone. So, look, man, offensively, I do think you got talent. I do. I don't know if you have premier talent. I don't know if you have an alpha dog. But one thing is for certain. I see talent all around it. I think that you do need to get some guys at guard. I think that they're going to take care of that. You need to get a tackle, maybe. Guy that can play. And then maybe you get some guys to return. But until then, I see some good things. The turnovers have got to stop. And to be real with you, here's the real part. I gave Nuss a lot of praise earlier in the show. If you're just joining us, please go back and listen to the beginning part of the show. Tons of praise. Garrett Nussmeier's got to get to work, man. He's got to be on that Jane Daniels plan of 2023 because the turnovers, the inconsistencies, those things have got to be better. The turnovers have got to be better. Love the half that Nuss had against Oklahoma. Absolutely love it. It's the best half that I think that he's had in an LSU uniform. The adversity that he overcame, just the overall sheer will that he showed when he came back. Flawless. When people talk about grit, when people talk about determination, Garrett showed that on Saturday. Not even in the long throws to Chris Hilton, even when it's 3rd and 7 and you got to run the football to pick up the first down and dude's laying it all out on the line for a game that you got to go 8-4 in. Okay. That's grit and determination. Thank you for showing everybody in the world that you got that. Because he had 4 fumbles this year that got recovered by the other team. He threw 11 interceptions. That's not winning football. You will not win football games if you're turning the ball over that much. You just won't. And it's not so much the turnovers as it is when, where, and how you're turning the ball over. When you're making careless mistakes against Ole Miss with a fumble, you're making a careless mistake against Ole Miss and throwing the ball up to a 5'8" receiver. The A&M situations where you're throwing it right to a guy on a check down because you just don't take the half a second it takes to look and throw at your target. It's got to change, and he's got to get to work with it. He needs to be on the whiteboard. He needs to be on the VR thing, whatever it was. He's got to put in the work. He's too talented. He's too gifted to leave his talents, not excel in his talents. He's too good at it. He's too good at being a quarterback. But he's got to get to work. His footwork, guys, in my humble opinion, of just overall throwing is not good. He's off platform when he's making throws that are critical. Now, what's interesting about that, when he either got a shot or something happened in the locker room, mechanically, he was flawless. Flawless. There were parts of his game on Saturday where he would hit the 5th drop. Boom, 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 boom. And he would take the Joe Burrow hitch, and then he'd toss his hip, throw the post to Chris Hilton. Guys, that is beautiful quarterbacking. What I'm used to seeing from Nuss is he opens up broadside, and when he wants to throw the fade or he wants to throw the post, it's too lazy with his footwork, and he's not turning to make the throw. He's like, yeah, fade route. He's got to get his feet set. Saturday, he did it flawlessly. That's what I see. Turnovers got to stop. You're going to be in a situation, again, if you're not careful and you keep turning the ball over. I don't care what you say about me. You can think that I hate the kid. I don't. Guys, it's basic football logic. Basic. And if you are so dumb to think that you can't have critical turnovers like that and things drastically change, you're wrong. You're wrong. I promise you. I would love for you to come on the show and explain to me why you think that we're 8-4. Please. I take a lot of criticism. Go inside the chat and tell me. Everybody right now, tell me in the chat, why do you think we're 8-4? You watch the games? You don't think it didn't have a massive part of it? Are you ludicrous? Are you ludicrous? And I'm not talking about the rapper. By the way, did y'all see Boosie rapping? Did y'all see Boosie rapping at the Bayou Classic? B-O-O. I know all of you in your head just now said S-I-E. Inconsistency. So back to the main point here. You're horrible at the things that wins you championships. You were horrible.